Welcome to English Made Easy, Learn Through Stories. In today's English lesson, we will start with an English story and then explain a few words and phrases from the story to help improve your vocabulary. Let's get started. The King's New Robes. Chapter 1. The Vain King. Once upon a time there was a king named Alden. He had a big nose and curly hair. King Alden loved to wear fancy clothes. He had many robes made of silk and gold. He liked to look at himself in the mirror. "I am so handsome," he said every day. "Look at my beautiful robes." King Alden had many mirrors in his room. He liked to see himself from every angle. He smiled at his reflection. "I am the best-looking king in the world," he thought. "Everyone should see how great I am." One day, King Alden called his servant, Lena. Lena was a young girl with bright eyes and a kind smile. "Lena," said the king, "bring me my favorite robe." "Yes, your majesty," said Lena. She went to the closet and took out a robe made of red silk. She helped the king put it on. "Do I look good?" asked the king. "Yes, your majesty," said Lena. But inside she thought, "The king is very vain." King Alden looked in the mirror again. He felt very happy. "I must show my people how wonderful I am," he said. Every day, King Alden walked through the castle gardens. He liked to hear the people say nice things about him. "Good morning, your majesty," said an old man in the garden. "You look very fine today." "Thank you," said the king. He smiled and walked on. At night, King Alden sat alone in his room. He thought about his clothes and his looks. "I am the best," he whispered to himself. He remembered his friend, Rain, who loved movies and had a dream to become a film director. "Rain is so passionate about her dreams," he thought. "Maybe I should find something more meaningful too." King Alden was a vain king, but he was also a king with a big heart. Maybe one day he will learn that true beauty comes from inside. But for now, he was happy just looking at his own reflection. Chapter 2. The Mysterious Weaver. One day, a stranger came to the castle. His name was Elias. Elias said he was a weaver. He made special clothes. "Hello, your majesty," said Elias. "I make magical robes. Only wise people can see them." King Alden's eyes grew big. "Magical robes?" he asked. "Tell me more." "Yes, your majesty," said Elias. "These robes are very special. Only wise and smart people can see them. Foolish people see nothing at all." King Alden smiled. "I am very wise," he thought. "I will buy these robes." "I want these robes," said the king. "Make them for me, and I will pay you well." "Of course, your majesty," said Elias. Elias set up a loom in a room of the castle. He pretended to weave the magical robes. Day and night he worked on the empty loom. There was no thread, but he moved his hands as if he was weaving. King Alden came to see the progress. He saw nothing on the loom, but he did not want to look foolish. "How are the robes?" asked the king. "They are coming along very well," said Elias. "Look at these beautiful colors and patterns." King Alden saw nothing but said, "Yes, they are very beautiful." Inside, he felt confused and worried. "Why can't I see the robes?" he thought. "Am I not wise?" Elias smiled. "The robes will be ready soon, your majesty," he said. "Everyone will see how wise and smart you are." King Alden nodded. "Yes, everyone will see," he said. He walked away, feeling excited. Elias continued to pretend to weave. He thought about the gold and jewels he would get from the king. "This is too easy," he thought with a sly grin. King Alden waited eagerly for his magical robes. He dreamed of the day he would wear them and show everyone how wise he was. He did not know that Elias was tricking him. Chapter 3. The King's Measurement. The day came for King Alden to try on his magical robes. He was very excited. Elias the weaver came to the king's room with an empty bag. "Good morning, your majesty," said Elias. "Today, I will measure you for the magical robes." King Alden nodded. "Yes, Elias, I am ready." Elias took out his tape measure. He measured the king's arms, legs, shoulders, and waist. He pretended to write down numbers. "Your Majesty, you have perfect measurements," said Elias. "The robes will fit you perfectly." King Alden smiled. "Thank you, Elias. I cannot wait to see the robes." Elias reached into his empty bag. He pretended to pull out a shiny, colorful robe. "Here is the magical robe, your Majesty," said Elias. "Look at the beautiful colors and patterns." King Alden looked at the empty air. He saw nothing, but he did not want to look foolish. "Yes, I see it," said the king. "It is very beautiful." Inside, he felt confused and worried. "Why can't I see it?" he thought. "Am I not wise?" Elias pretended to put the robe on the king. He moved his hands carefully, as if he was dressing the king in a real robe. "How does it feel, your Majesty?" asked Elias. "It feels wonderful," said the king, even though he felt nothing. Elias smiled. "Now for the pants and jacket," he said. He pretended to take out pants and a jacket from his empty bag. He acted like he was putting them on the king. "These pants and this jacket are perfect for you, your Majesty," said Elias. "Only wise people can see them." "Yes, they are perfect," said the king. Finally, Elias pretended to put a hat on the king's head. "There, your Majesty. You are now wearing the magical robes," he said. King Alden looked at himself in the mirror. He saw only his regular clothes and the empty air, but he smiled and said, "Thank you, Elias. The robes are amazing." Elias bowed. "You are welcome, your Majesty. You look very wise and smart." Elias left the room with his empty bag. He laughed quietly to himself. "The king is so vain," he thought. "He believes in my magical robes." King Alden stood alone in his room. He looked in the mirror and tried to see the magical robes, but he saw nothing. He felt proud, but also very worried. "Maybe I need to think harder," he thought. "Then I will see the robes." Chapter 4. Seeking Approval. King Alden was excited to show his new magical robes. He wanted to be sure they looked good. So he called his 3 best advisors, Sir Henry, Lady Clara, and Lord Thomas. "Come to my room," the king said. "I have something special to show you." The 3 advisors came quickly. They were curious to see what the king had. "Hello, your Majesty," said Sir Henry. "What do you want to show us?" King Alden smiled. "I have new magical robes. Only wise people can see them. Tell me what you think." The 3 advisors looked at the king. They saw nothing, but they did not want to look foolish. "Oh, your Majesty," said Lady Clara, "the robes are beautiful. I love the colors." "Yes, very beautiful," said Lord Thomas. "The patterns are amazing." Sir Henry nodded. "You look very wise and smart, your Majesty," he said. King Alden felt happy, but also a bit confused. "Why can't I see the robes?" he thought. "But if my advisors see them, they must be real." "Thank you, my friends," said the king. "I will wear these robes at the big celebration tomorrow." "That is a wonderful idea, your Majesty," said Lady Clara. "Everyone will see how wise you are." The advisors left the room. They were worried too. "Why can't we see the robes?" they thought. "Are we not wise?" Elias smiled. "Your Majesty, everyone will admire your new robes," he said. Chapter 5. The Celebration. The day of the big celebration arrived. King Alden was very excited. He wanted everyone to see his magical robes. He walked to his golden chariot, ready to join the parade. People from the kingdom came to see the king. They lined up on the streets, waiting for the parade to start. Children, parents, and old people were all there. King Alden stood tall in his chariot. He waved to the crowd. "Hello, everyone," he called. "Look at my new magical robes." The people looked at the king. They saw nothing but his regular clothes, but they also did not want to seem foolish. "Wow, look at the king's robes," said one man. "Yes, so beautiful," said a woman. "Very wise," said another person. The king smiled. "They see my robes," he thought. "I must be very wise." The chariot moved slowly through the streets. Music played, and everyone clapped. King Alden felt very proud. He waved and smiled at everyone. But then a little boy in the crowd pointed at the king. He had big, curious eyes. "Mummy," said the boy, "why is the king only in his undergarments?" Everyone went silent. They looked at the boy, then at the king. They saw that the boy was right. The king was not wearing magical robes. He was only in his undergarments. First, there were a few giggles. Then more and more people started to laugh. Soon, everyone was laughing. "Undergarments! Undergarments!" they chanted. King Alden heard the laughter. His face turned red. He felt very embarrassed. "They can't see the robes," he thought. "Maybe I am not wise." The king quickly covered himself with his hands. He felt very foolish and sad. He turned to his chariot driver. "Take me back to the castle, quickly," he said. The chariot driver nodded and drove quickly back to the castle. The people kept laughing and chanting, "Undergarments! Undergarments!" King Alden jumped out of the chariot and ran to his room. He slammed the door and sat on his bed. He felt very ashamed. "I have been tricked," he thought. "There were no magical robes. I was foolish and vain." Chapter 6. The Child's Truth. The celebration had ended, but everyone still talked about the king's undergarments. King Alden felt very embarrassed. He stayed in his room, thinking about what had happened. The next day, King Alden called his advisors, Sir Henry, Lady Clara, and Lord Thomas. "Come to my room," the king said. "We need to talk." The advisors came quickly. They looked worried. "Your Majesty," said Sir Henry, "we are very sorry." "Yes, we did not want to seem foolish," said Lady Clara. "We should have told the truth," said Lord Thomas. King Alden nodded. "I understand," he said. "I was vain, and I wanted everyone to think I was wise. But now I know the truth." The king sighed. "We must find Elias, the weaver. He tricked us all." "We will find him, Your Majesty," said Sir Henry. "Yes, we will make sure he does not trick anyone else," said Lady Clara. King Alden felt a little better. "Thank you," he said, "but I must also apologize to my people." The next day, King Alden called all the people to the castle. He stood on the balcony and looked at them. He felt nervous but knew he had to speak. "People of the kingdom," he said, "I made a mistake. I was tricked by Elias, the weaver. There were no magical robes." The people listened quietly. "I wanted to seem wise, but I was foolish and vain," the king continued. "I am very sorry." A little girl in the crowd raised her hand. "It's okay, Your Majesty," she said. "We all make mistakes." King Alden smiled. "Thank you," he said. "I will try to be a better king. I will listen to you and care for you more." The people clapped and cheered. They were happy to see the king apologize and promise to change. From that day on, King Alden worked hard to be a good king. He listened to his people and made wise decisions. He no longer cared only about his looks. Elias the weaver was found and brought to justice. He could not trick anyone else again. King Alden felt happier and wiser. He knew that true wisdom came from being kind and honest, not from wearing fancy clothes. And so, the kingdom was peaceful and happy. The king and his people learned to trust and care for each other. They knew that the most important things were not what you wore, but what you did and how you treated others. The end. The story is aligned with the A1 level of the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, CEFR, which is the beginner level. Here are 5 words, phrases from the story along with their meanings, examples from the story, and examples from real life. 1. Vain. Meaning, having too much pride in one's appearance or achievements. Example from the story. King Alden was very vain. He loved looking at himself in the mirror and thought he was the best-looking king. Example in real life. Sarah spends hours looking at herself in the mirror because she is very vain about her beauty. 2. Weaver. Meaning, a person who makes fabric or cloth by interlacing threads. Example from the story. Elias pretended to be a weaver who could make magical robes that only wise people could see. Example in real life. The weaver created beautiful rugs with intricate designs for the local market. 3. Tricked. Meaning, deceived or misled someone. Example from the story. Elias tricked King Alden by pretending to make magical robes that did not exist. Example in real life. The magician tricked the audience into believing he made the rabbit disappear. 4. Apologize. Meaning, to say sorry for something wrong that was done. Example from the story. King Alden apologized to his people for being vain and for the mistake with the magical robes. Example in real life. John had to apologize to his friend for forgetting his birthday. 5. Justice. Meaning, fair treatment or behavior, the quality of being fair and reasonable. Example from the story. Elias was brought to justice and could not trick anyone else again. Example in real life. The court delivered justice by punishing the thief for his crimes. Here are 3 things the reader can learn from the story. 1. The importance of humility. 2. The value of honesty. 3. The consequences of vanity. This story and voiceover have been provided by English Made Easy. Learn through stories. Copying or re-uploading is strictly prohibited.